thing was, during this period, they were really busy. At the same time, these guys were all being introduced to Klaus Schwab, and Klaus Schwab was being introduced to him through an international seminar at Harvard that was run by Henry Kissinger and funded by the CIA between the years of 1961 to 1966, while Klaus Schwab was attending this international seminar. And this international seminar was run by a guy called William Yandell Elliott, who is a grandee of all the grandees. He is really an extremely interesting character, advisor to 6 presidents, extremely influential, extremely behind the scenes. CFR, he was the one who set up that international seminar, put Kissinger as the director of it. It was funded $146,000 in the 60s. Is a lot of money to fund an international seminar. And Schwab, he would say at one point, I didn't go to Harvard, I didn't go do any courses there, I just attended seminars. And he would quote over and over again about Henry Kissinger's international seminar, how he's gone there, how he met Henry, how he was allowed in, even though that normally they have to pay, but no, not him. He was allowed in specially. And at that time, what you're not being told, Henry Kissinger had obviously seen something amazing in Schwab. I said, this is a guy. I got Kenneth Galbraith and Herman Kahn and said, we need to create something now so we can influence foreign policy in Europe. Now, all of their writing during this period is about influencing foreign policy in Europe. All of it. You know, first of all, it's about thermonuclear war, but then it all coalesces into, okay, we can use all of these things together. We can use economic policies and social policies. That is John Kenneth Galbraith's area. We can use thermonuclear war and the understanding of deterrence, that's Herman Kahn's area, and we can use a combination of the two, foreign policy and thermonuclear war experts of Henry Kissinger, to have such a big impact. And we're better to set something like this up than Switzerland, than just off. So why would Klaus Schwab, a German, decide to set this up in Switzerland? Well, you don't want to set up a globalist world government, like the start of a world government, in a country that's just had the World War and everybody's watching. So instead, he draws swaps across the border, and he goes to Switzerland. So after this, going to this CIA-funded course that's all put in by CFR men. You have to understand, John Kenneth Galbraith is definitely CFR. He left the CFR in 1973, saying it was banal, and that was the only question it rose, was whether or not they were worth sitting. The meetings were worth sitting through, which I think was just a way to distance himself from the organization, while he went off and did other things, and why they went off and did other things. Herman Kahn was working for CFR, or was CFR, writing at least for their journal on at least 2 different occasions. So, you know, he's in those circles anyway. And Kissinger was recruited by the CFR in 1950, 1951. Council on Foreign Relations has such a massive amount of blood on their hands for the hidden actions they've done for over a century, and it's or around a century, and it's completely disgusting. They've got away with a lot of this. So a lot of this comes down to the CFR, them using the CIA to fund this course to recruit people. There is another couple of people who were on that course. You know, there was another couple of people, really big people, including a man called Pierre Trudeau, who was also on there. Now, I'm looking at it now, and I'm thinking there's much more connections to be between Pierre Trudeau and a lot of the other people in the CFR establishment at the time. He had lots of links to the CFR, and he seems this course, this international seminar, I'm going to say it out loud, is the original World Economic Forum Young Global Leaders. Mm-hmm. This is it. Yeah. This is, they rinse, repeat. Get it better each time. Install your global leaders, keep power. A very small group. It's an idea of aligning America and Britain. So it's America, and Europe. America and Britain are always seen, for the Americans, they're seen as the same entity. You know, the English-speaking world is seen as one entity. And once upon a time, this Rhodesian ideal, because all these CFR guys, all round table guys, they all come from this Rhodesian ideal of making the 3 super states, the America, the Anglo super state, which America, Australia, Britain, Canada, etc., and then Europe, which was at one point going to be Nazi Germany, and then like Russia back in the day, but now would be like Russia, China, maybe BRIC countries could be a good example of that. They wanted to make that because they knew that then that would lead to these three super states combining into some sort of globalist governance, which would in all of their writing, if you read Herman Kahn's writing, in 1967, he's writing an ancillary document alongside another document called the Year 2000. That Year 2000 is extremely important because he makes all of the predictions of all the technological revolution to come. Every single thing, and it's almost all right. Nearly every single thing is spot on, and Klaus Schwab's efforts since that time has been seemingly to make all of those technological advancements become reality, whether or not they're dangerous or not for society or for the person or for identity. And Herman Kahn starts to realize this. So these guys in the late 60s, you have to understand this, all of this turmoil around Europe, and these guys come in with Schwab. They've chosen their man. Schwab goes back. And this is amazing. Schwab goes back to Germany, and Peter Schmidheiny phones him and says, "Hey, you've been to Harvard, you know modern business practice. How about you help me merge Escher Weiss with Swisser?" And another one, Brown Bavaria, I think Brown Bavaria is called, another company, and all arms producers in some way, shape, or form during the war. And he's like, "Okay, I will." Then he goes back. He forms these companies together in 1967 onwards. Becomes, I think, it's like executive director or just one down from Peter Schmidheiny to oversee these this company's merger. This company would come out at the end called Schulze AG, and they would help the South African regime buying the nuclear weapon during their failed attempt to gain the nuclear weapon that was eventually exposed by the Swiss. You know, it's already been documented, already been in report. Klaus Schwab would go on straight from this thermonuclear dynamic think tank here, there in Harvard with some of the biggest players in thermonuclear war, and he's being led by them. And then he goes over and he helps instantly to proliferate, if that's the right word, propagate nuclear weapons, you know, don't even get me there. But anyway, he's on the track of helping spread nuclear weapons straight away. And this is meant to be because they had worked out by 1967 that the more nuclear weapons around, the more they could get on with their agenda, because everybody was crapping themselves about a Cold War and potential death around every corner. And by the early 90s, they managed to do this. But basically, at the end of the 60s, a very 69, 70, what happened was Henry Kissinger would get Kenneth Galbraith and Herman Kahn, Dr. Strangelove himself, to go across to Europe with Klaus Schwab and sell the World Economic Forum, which was then called the European Management Symposium, and would later be called the European Management Forum. He would push that on, and they would make it so. They would go over and they would persuade people to come in on the project. Kenneth Galbraith would be the keynote speaker, the first seminar with Herman Kahn being up on stage, being a massive draw because of his profile and his amazing sort of mind. So brought lots of people in. It was extremely successful. Herman Kahn, his year 2000 must be looked at. It's really important. And for him, it was like he was really, around this time, he was obviously seeing that his ideas were being manipulated and changed and formed into something that was much sicker and reminded him of the past. And by 1973, Klaus Schwab was, 1972's World Economic Forum didn't go that well. 1973, he's trying to get a boost going. So he introduces the Club of Rome guy in, who is the head of the Club of Rome, and he does a speech on the limits of growth, which had been released a year before, and was behind a Malthusian idea of population reduction. to solve the world's problem because of overpopulation and lack of resources, which is an outdated view. And Herman Kahn was devastated by this. He would spend the last 10 years of his life railing against the idea that we were that doomed. He would write in 1974, 1975 a much more optimistic version of what the future was, and he would see what he had created in the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and putting the technocrats in power. He could see that as soon as they could turn dark, they did turn dark.